All right, Dan here again. Welcome back to my channel. If you're watching this video, you've already hopefully have watched my 3 to 7 day. We'll see. I don't know what it's going to be. Fasting. So I'm going to be just as surprised watching this as you would be. But back on Ash Wednesday, I decided to start fasting and do at least a 3 day, 72-hour fast. I'm hoping that I did a longer one. Hopefully, I went up to 7 days, but who knows? But anyway, I wanted to talk a little bit about intermittent fasting because it's something I've been doing for about 5 years now. There's all kinds of videos on YouTube about intermittent fasting, and there's a lot of different ways to intermittent fast, right? So I was first introduced to this a long time ago, actually probably about 8 or 9 years ago, from my sister and brother-in-law who had started doing it. And I think intermittent fasting really as a whole, being more in the public and online and stuff, was just coming into its own around then. And I kind of ignored it. And maybe you have too. Maybe you thought, I can't starve myself. We all had these visions of what would happen with intermittent fasting. And so I did see results from my sister and from my brother-in-law, and especially from my brother-in-law, who has continued to do it now for like 8 years or so. And really, doing a really great job in his early 70s and started again. This is what happens, and I'll get to that, to the fasting in a minute. But, once you start having success with something, then you start thinking, oh, what else can I do? So he started getting a fitness regime and doing some exercise. Pull-ups was his first thing. And I loved watching his little videos on pull-ups. And in his 70s, him and I both do a lot of push-ups or pull-ups. And I was pretty amazed at seeing that. But I still, after a couple of years, I knew I wanted to lose some weight. I was about 50 pounds heavier than I wanted to be. And so I decided to start doing some research. And they had given me a book on intermittent fasting. I don't even remember who it was by, but in that book, it took me to another one, which I like to listen to books on Audible. So for me, reading it wasn't going to really work really well, because I just don't. When I want to listen or want to learn on something, it's usually when I'm driving, and I do a lot of driving. So I thought, I'm going to get an Audible book. And I found somebody that was very credible. Her name was Jen Stevens. I get nothing for her to recommending her at all, but she came out with a book at the time called Delay, Don't Deny. And I thought, what a great title. That's a title that makes sense, right? I wanted something that I could do without dieting. And she was straight up front. Look, I want to eat what I can eat, what I want to eat. It ain't always going to be good, but I want to be able to eat what I want to eat when I want to eat and lose weight. And I will tell you, in her book, she goes through every type of diet that she was on. And I could relate. And if you look at it, you might too. Okay, so it's a paperback, and it is also on Audible. That book had references to a number of other authors who did intermittent fasting and talked about it, kind of the people that were pioneers in the field, although fasting has been around forever. In fact, that's why I started doing my fast for Lent, because in the religions, fasting has been something that has been going on since before Christ, right? And he fasted 40 days and 40 nights. So, I don't know that I could ever do that, but you never know, okay? You got to have enough fat on your body to be able to do that. Right now I do, so I probably could do it, but if you get too slim, you don't want to be doing a 40-day fast because you got eventually nothing for your body to use. But that was so key. I looked at it. It gave me a lot of information in her book, and she referred to a Dr. Jason Fung. His book was called The Obesity Code. He also come up with one after that that I listened to as well called the Diabetes Code. But I thought that the Obesity Code was more detailed and more easy for people that want the science behind it, but don't want to get too much into what they had to do if they're diabetic. And since I'm not diabetic, and I wasn't diabetic, but I was pre-diabetic, I thought I better get to it. So all intermittent fasting is either eating or you're not eating, okay? So let's give an example. Everybody does fasting. So you go to bed at night, you're fasting during that time you're sleeping. You wake up in the morning, you have breakfast. Break fast? I never thought of that, never related it to that before. But that's when you break your fast, right? Well, what if you skipped breakfast? What if you said, I wake up, I'm not really hungry. That's the first thing I do, or I grab something to work. Let's say I delay that till maybe 10 o'clock and I'll have something at work or something, or 11 o'clock or, whatever, depending on your schedule. So now you've got, instead of a 10 or 12 hour fast, maybe you have a 14 or 15 hour fast. So there's all kinds of pros and cons that people talk about on the internet, is like, well, what's the best type of fast, the long fast, what do they do for you? But most people will start out with 16 hours of fasting. You get to that. I started at 12. And then I kind of worked up because I didn't think I could do 16. I kind of worked up to 16, and I stayed at 16 for a long time. And then I eventually got it up to 17. There was a couple of days where I just forgot or my schedule didn't open. And here I was at 18, 19. I thought, if I can do it that way, well then, maybe I can do it. And there was a book called, and I can't remember that book, but he always talked about the 5-hour window. Okay, having a 5-hour window. In other words, 5 hours where you are able to eat. It doesn't mean you continuously eat for 5 hours. It just means that's your window where you are going to feed yourself. Maybe you're going to start with a little bit of a snack, maybe some almonds or some yogurt or some fruit or just something light, or maybe a sandwich. And then you're going to have a meal later, and then maybe some dessert to finish it off. Or maybe you're going to start with a meal. And then, after a few hours, you're like, I want a little bit more. And then, hey, I close my window with something sweet. And that's kind of what Jen talks about in the book. She goes, man, I love to have a glass of wine. I love my cheesecake. I love pizza. I love a lot of good things that people you can't really eat on a diet if you're going to be successful. At least not the way I eat it, which is with a full meal, right? So anyway, I was looking for something that mainly was going to be for losing weight. And the science behind it is what really made sense, okay? When we eat, insulin is released in our body. And insulin will help your food get put into the energy from your food to get stored into your system. Now I'm going to tell you, I can't tell you all of exactly how this stuff does, and then this video is not for that, but it's just talking about my experience with intermittent fasting and how it works and why I kept with it. So the more I fasted, I started losing weight. And and it wasn't fast. At first, it kind of was, but it really wasn't fast. In about 36 weeks, I lost a little over 50 pounds. I think it was like 54 pounds. And felt great. But the other thing that I noticed was the body shape changing as I fasted. Okay? A little bit narrow on the side, kind of losing the love handles on the side. And it was really kind of interesting to see what happened. Now, I do admit I was working out fairly regularly, still going to the gym, but I've been working out for a long time, just, to maintain muscle, not to become Atlas. But that never really changed the shape of my body, not this part of my body, right? So I went back to the book with Dr. Fung and with Jin and started listening about something called autophagy. And it was like the longer you fast, the more your body goes into a state where you can have what the autophagy is, the cleaning of your cells, okay? And it cleans out old cells, dead cells, and it allows you to start healing your body. But not only that, in his book, he talks about treating people with diabetes and how they were way overweight. But as they lost weight with fasting, they did not have the big folds of skin. Now, like I had a friend that had gone through and had the surgery on his stomach. He lost a ton of weight, almost 200 pounds, by the way, which he ended up eventually gaining back, which was sad. But it had this big fold of skin. He could actually lift it and put it down because he was over 500 pounds when he started. So I thought, wow, that is really cool. So autophagy is kind of eating all of that excess skin, slow pace, and people that are going through his program aren't having that. So I thought, man, that's pretty good. And he's from Canada, I believe. He's got a place up near Toronto, if I'm not mistaken. He actually does long distance stuff online and stuff too. Still has a podcast and things like that talks about it. And you can look that up. I don't have to give you, it's so easy to look things up today. So I thought that makes sense too. And that's kind of where I did the 67-hour fast a few years back. And during that 67-hour fast, I did lose about 5 more pounds, and actually a couple pounds that I had kind of put back on. And then I lost, really net loss was about 3 pounds, which, was not bad for not even a 3-day fast, but almost. But I thought it was for the cleaning out of my cells, right? Now, I could have gone longer than 67 hours. I really could have. But my brain said, I want to eat. My body wasn't saying it. Actually, as I was getting into that point, the second day was the toughest. And I'll probably tell that same story on my video. If you look at my older videos now, because this will be after it, what happened on the second day of my fast. It's kind of the day that your body seems to tell you you're really hungry, and you kind of go through waves of that. And so, but by the third day, I wasn't hungry, but mentally, I love food. I wanted to eat. That was enough for me. I proved it to myself, okay? So again, how does fasting work? It gives your body, the simplest way I can put it is, you eat, your insulin's released into your body. The more you eat, the more insulin's released. People eat over all day long. They tell you, oh, eat a bunch of meals and you keep your metabolism going. But what you keep going is the insulin being put into your body. And then it's got to get stuff into your cells. And it stores fat, right? Just keep storing fat. So you're eating, and you're just storing more and more fat. And because your body only needs so much energy, right, from your food. So the thing that was really important is that the longer the fast, the more your body had time to get rid of that insulin. Now, instead of feeding off of sugar in your body, it started feeding off of your own body fat. And I remember thinking, your body's not going to do that. But if you really think about it, if you were back in the Stone Age, you didn't have food to eat every day. And even people living not even in the Stone Age, the people that were going across this country when it was young and going on long trips that they had to find their own food and stuff as they went along, they sure as hell weren't eating all day. That's one thing. But they definitely could have eaten every day. But maybe not at sometimes. So your body's smart. At first it says, oh, I don't have any food. I'm going to slow your metabolism down a little bit. But if you are constantly giving it food, it does what it needs to do and it stores it. And if you only give it so much and then you say, but you still need more energy, now your energy is taken from your stored body fat. It's about as simple as I can put it. I would highly recommend, if this is something that interests you, please read the book by Jen Stevens or listen to it like I did. She does it. She's the author and she's the one that does the book. So it really makes a difference when the author actually does the book. They have a lot more energy put into it. And then she recommends several books, but the one book that I really listened to several times now is The Obesity Code by Dr. Jason Fung, F-U-N-G. So if this is making sense to you, don't take my word for it. I'm just giving you my experience, right? So, your body starts tapping for fuel. The hardest part about fasting is to realize what is a good fast, clean fast, I guess they call it, right? So what is that? That is when you either are only drinking water, you can have fizzy water or whatever, but nothing with any kind of flavoring in it. You can have coffee, but no cream, no sugar, no nothing in it. If you don't like black coffee, you'll either get to learn to like black coffee or you won't drink it, and maybe you'll have tea. And it actually has to be actual tea, okay? Not flavored teas as well, okay? Because technically, anything sweet on your tongue releases insulin. So one of the questions I remember in her book was, what about brushing your teeth? Well, it does release insulin for a little bit, but if you're doing 2 minutes of that and then you're rinsing your mouth out, you may be okay. But it probably still does. So I have a toothpaste that I bought too that is very not sweet. It's not, but it's not sweet. So that kind of helps as well. So you're not using any cream, any butter, any MCT oil or nut milk or anything. You want to just use black coffee, water, or tea. And those are the things that are going to help you get through the waves of getting hungry. You feel like you're getting a little hungry, have a little water. Now on this long fast, we'll see what I did this time, I'm not sure. But I remember last time they saying, hey, if you felt a little nausea or just didn't feel exactly right when you were getting into the second or third day or longer, just put a little salt on your tongue and that really helps. So I did do that. We'll see if I did that this time. I don't know, okay? But my goal for this is to kind of help my body heal. The other thing that gets really revved up when you're on a longer fast, and again, we're talking about intermittent fasting here, but I just did this long fast, is stem cells. Your own stem cells get really boosted up in your body to try to help and protect and clean and to repair damaged cells in your body. So I got this shoulder that, I hurt not too long ago. You may have heard of one of my other videos. And I'm like, hey, maybe that'll help get that healed a little quicker, okay? So again, what do you want to do? For most people, start with 12 hours. Everybody can do 12 hours. If you go to bed and you don't eat a couple hours before work or before you go to sleep, let's say you sleep 8 hours and then a couple more hours after that, that's 12 hours. But eventually you'll get to 13, 14, 16. I truly believe the sweet spot, at least for me, and it can vary for everybody, is about 19 hours. The other thing that people have with objections is, I get low blood sugar. Well, yeah, maybe. Okay, and if you absolutely do, you have to have a little something. Try to have something that's not going to, you're going to end your fast, and then you try again the next day, okay? But something that isn't sweet, maybe a nut or something like that. The other thing is, I can't work out when fasted. Very untrue. I'm 68 years old. I play basketball sometimes for 2-3 hours in the mornings on Tuesdays and Thursdays, and sometimes Saturday. and I'm good. When I go to lift weights, my workout is always during a fast. And I can tell you, I've never felt like I can't work out and fast, that I don't have the energy, that I don't have the strength. In fact, just the opposite, okay? Jason Fung, Dr. Jason Fung, talks about losing muscle. People think, oh, you're going to lose muscle first. No, you burn the wood pile first, he says, your fat stores, before you chop up the sofa, which is your muscle, right? So that's kind of a good analogy. So fasting clean helps access fat stores more easily than constant low-calorie grazing. Again, I want to say one thing right here, and make sure it's in the video. I'm not a doctor. If you have health issues that you need to address your doctor with, more and more doctors today are understanding the benefits of fasting, and they can tell you what you can do and what you can't do, and maybe how. You can contact Jason Fung, Dr. Fung, if you want. I'm sure there's a way to get through to him through his institute or his videos or his website, and just get some advice on that as well. But really, you want to talk to your doctor if you have health issues of different things that you're on. Maybe you can't be without them, or maybe you have to do it at certain times of the day. So a lot of people like to have their window, say from 2 in the afternoon to 10 o'clock at night, or 2 to 7, or they want to have it from noon to 5. So they can get a lunch and a dinner kind of thing in there, a light of one or the other. So it really varies. That's what's another nice thing about it, man. If tomorrow I happen to break my fast earlier than I did today, or later, I get a longer fast today, maybe a shorter fast the next day. So maybe I got a 22-hour fast today, and the next day I only do a 16-hour because I went longer with my eating the next day. For me, I have a lot of I used to have a lot of acid reflux. So I found that eating later in the day was not good for me. And I had already stopped eating after 4 or 5 o'clock. And so for me, doing the fast earlier in the day, and it's kind of gotten earlier and earlier, where typically I will try to open my window around 11 o'clock, and by 3 or 4 o'clock, I'm done. Sometimes it's done at 1 or 2, but other times, typically by 4 o'clock. And I try to open with a dinner that I plan, and quality food, right? If you're only eating 1 meal a day, you only have 1 meal to plan for. You want to have something that you like, right? So my girlfriend will say, well, what do you want? Well, how about chop suey, or how about spaghetti, or how about lasagna? And she likes to make all these things for me. And that, I'll have a good, healthy meal. And I may have a salad with it, believe it or not. Nobody that knows me goes, salad. But, I like a salad now with some avocado and tomato and onion and some peppers on it that have been grilled in oil. I love that, some spinach. So you can make a good salad too. So you can have and not worry about it. And then when I get done, the other day I had a punchki for dessert. I will have ice cream, which is my favorite dessert. And I don't worry about eating it or how much I eat. I try to limit it, maybe a pint, but I've gone overboard sometimes. And then the next day, just try to do a little longer fast to kind of get rid of all that. So it's really cool that you can eat whatever you want. You don't have to. When I'm cooking, I use a lot of healthy oils: olive oil, avocado oil, coconut oil. Those are great things. Again, you'll find all this stuff in the book. So I don't worry about it. If you're counting calories and you use a quarter cup of oil while you're cooking food, man, you're like, oh my gosh, or on your salad, pouring that olive oil on there and then some seasoning or salt or pepper. People are like, how can you do that? Well, it worked, still lost weight, because it's not always totally about what you eat, although it can be. You can overeat, trust me. But it's about the time you leave in between, okay? Now, if you're pregnant or breastfeeding, don't do it. If you have eating disorders, get some help before you even think about this, because that's only going to be two. If you're underweight for your size, don't be doing fasting. You don't need it. Okay, you're already doing a good job of your body's using all your food the way it is. Maybe you have a faster metabolism. And children and teens that are still growing, they can do it if you're, getting obese or you're overweight, but you really need to make sure you have somebody, a doctor, following you along on that. Okay. The fast is a lifestyle. Like I said, I've been doing it for 5 years now. It's just automatic for me. Okay. I know I'm fasting pretty much every day. However, if I'm going to a party or if I'm going to a wedding or something like that, and maybe I'll kind of delay my day as much as I can to not have breakfast or something. But if I'm eating, I'm eating. And I don't even worry about it. Because I know that within a few days, if I do put on a pound or two, and it's funny because it seems like you put on more quicker. I might put on 2 or 3 pounds, but within 3 or 4 days, it's gone. So it's like, okay, you just go right back to it. So intermittent fasting, just kind of put it in a nutshell, it works because it lowers insulin, it builds metabolic flexibility, and gives your body time for cellular cleanup. If you want a simple starter plan, I highly suggest put start in the comments. And, if you like and subscribe and share this with somebody else, that'd be great. But if you want, I will give you whatever references I have. I'm going to try to put a couple links in here, both for both of those books. And if there's anything else that you might want to know or you got questions about, just ask me. I'll be glad to answer those for you. So I think this is long enough. If you stuck to the end, thank you. If you haven't liked or subscribed to our channel yet, please do. And I'd love to hear your comments. If you've already been an intermittent faster, how's it worked for you? Even if you haven't had good results, let's hear about it, okay, and why. And if you want to follow along, I hope to do more videos on this because this really is a lifestyle for me now. So I'll do a little less detailed or maybe more detailed ones in the future. So it's great to have you listening, and see you again.